Oh my god, Darkest Hour is such a good movie. Hi everyone, this is your boy and today I won't be reviewing anything. I will actually be talking about the 2018 Oscars. This should be fun. I managed to see a lot of this year's nominees, so I thought it would be fun to talk about what I think will win and what should win, but more importantly, what I think will win. I'm not gonna go over every single category. I'm just gonna touch up on the ones that I'm familiar with. If there's any category that has 2 or more films that I have not seen, then I'm just not gonna do it. Just as a disclaimer, I don't think too highly of the Oscars, nor do I take them too seriously. I think like other famous awards ceremonies like the Grammys, they tend to favor popularity and politics over artistic value. But while I frequently disagree with the nominees and the winners they pick, I still think they tend to nominate a good crop of solid films fairly consistently. If you only want to hear my thoughts on certain categories, then check the description below where you will find the time code for each category. Let's not waste any more time. Let's do this. First, we have Best Sound Mixing, which includes Baby Driver, Blade Runner 2049, Dunkirk, The Shape of Water, and Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Baby Driver will win, and it should win. The overall editing of this film, honestly, is some of the best I saw in film in 2017. The rest of the films here have very competent sound mixing, except Dunkirk, which had really inaudible dialogue sometimes because of how buried it is beneath the sound effects. Really hoping Baby Driver gets this one though. You should definitely watch it if you haven't seen it. And naturally, following that, we have Best Sound Editing. So what confuses me about this category is that sound mixing is a vital part of sound editing, so I fail to see the point of putting them into 2 different categories. And both categories had the same nominees. Apparently the Academy was feeling really lazy this year. I'm willing to bet they only threw Star Wars in here to get more viewers since Star Wars did so well at the box office. One big snub here, now that I think about it, is Mother, which has little to no music throughout its runtime, and yet it's consistently captivating in terms of its sound design. But once again, I'm gonna say that Baby Driver should win and will win. Watch it if you haven't seen it. Next, we have one of my favorites, Best Original Score. The nominees are Dunkirk, Phantom Thread, The Shape of Water, Star Wars: The Last Jedi, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Alexander Desplat will win, and I think Johnny Greenwood should win, who did such a fantastic job with Phantom Thread. I think in terms of composition and variety, there really isn't any score that comes close to beating what Johnny Greenwood did. It's just so beautiful and so good. I think Alexander Desplat will probably win just because the score for The Shape of Water is a lot more traditional, which is what the Academy will normally pick. I also really like the score for Dunkirk. It's so beautifully ominous, but it also is kind of repetitive. The score for 3 Billboards by Carter Burwell is still good, but it kind of feels like a throw-in. I don't think it was anything spectacular. The same thing goes for John Williams' score for Last Jedi, which uses a lot of the same themes that he's used in previous Star Wars films. The biggest snub here is One Huntrix Point Never for his work on Good Time, which had such an excellent score. The overall film was omitted from so many categories that it could have easily been nominated for, which we'll talk more about in these upcoming categories here. Next up, we have Best Production Design. The nominees are Beauty and the Beast, Blade Runner 2049, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, and The Shape of Water. The Shape of Water will win, and I think it should win. The reason why I'm picking The Shape of Water for Best Production Design is that it was only made on a budget of like $20 million, and yet it looks just as expensive as Blade Runner or Dunkirk, which was made for over $100 million. I did not see Beauty and the Beast because why would I? And Darkest Hour has some decent production design, sure, but I don't think it's on the same level as The Shape of Water. Next, we have Best Film Editing, which includes Baby Driver, Dunkirk, I, Tonya, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. Out of these 5, I'm gonna say Baby Driver will win and should win. I, Tonya, I think is the runner-up here, but the film really struggled to make the CGI facial replacement of Margot Robbie's face look convincing, which, I mean, I can't ignore. All of the other films here are pretty well edited, but none of them are nearly as crispy as Baby Driver. I think Mother also got snubbed from this category, just like Best Sound Editing. I just thought that film was really tight and really well put together. It never held on a shot for too long, and it never cut too soon. Moving on here, we're going to go to a favorite category of mine, which is Best Cinematography. This includes Roger Deakins for Blade Runner 2049, Bruno Di Bonnell for Darkest Hour, Hoyt van Hoytema for Dunkirk, Rachel Morrison for Mudbound, and Dan Laustsen for The Shape of Water. Roger Deakins should win, and I think he will win, but I'm reluctant to say that because he's been nominated so many times and yet has never won. He's like the Leonardo DiCaprio of DPs. He's been nominated 13 times for Best Cinematography, has won 0 of those times. Roger Deakins' work on Blade Runner is just in a whole different league than every other film in this category. I'm really hoping he wins it because there's really no contest here, guys. The closest competitors to Roger Deakins is Hoyt van Hoytema for Dunkirk and Dan Laustsen for The Shape of Water. Love the IMAX format in Dunkirk, it looks gorgeous. I also really like The Shape of Water. It has some beautiful fluid camera work that really sucks you in. I did end up liking Mudbound overall, but I feel like nominating that film for Best Cinematography is a total throw-in if you're comparing it to the rest of the films in this category. Nominating Darkest Hour for Best Cinematography is just a fucking joke. The Academy just got lazy here and threw in the safest wartime biopic because reasons. Mudbound and Darkest Hour could have easily been replaced by Phantom Thread, The Killing of a Sacred Deer, or The Florida Project, which I think were all big snubs in this category. Next on the list here, we have Best Original Screenplay, which includes The Shape of Water, written by Guillermo del Toro and Vanessa Taylor, Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, written by Martin McDonagh, Get Out, written by Jordan Peele, The Big Sick by Kumail Nanjiani and Emily Gordon, and then we have Lady Bird, written by Greta Gerwig. For this, Get Out will win, and I think The Big Sick should win. I think Get Out is getting a lot of buzz because of the social commentary that's written into the story, which I thought was communicated very well. I want The Big Sick to win because I thought it was the most original out of all the films here. It has a really great balance of comedy and drama, and you can really tell that it was written from real-life experiences. It feels very close to home to the author. It also made the most sense from a storytelling perspective. Lady Bird is a very close second for me personally, which I also felt was very close to home, and it felt very personal to the writer. The Shape of Water could definitely win. I felt the story was kind of derivative in some parts, and there are also some parts that are occasionally dumb, but it still has a great story. I would only be slightly annoyed if Get Out or Three Billboards won, which I thought both had some silly writing choices in them, but I think all of these picks are pretty solid overall. They all had very original stories. And next up, we have Best Adapted Screenplay, which includes Mudbound by Dee Rees and Virgil Williams, The Disaster Artist by Scott Neustadter and Michael H. Weber, Molly's Game by Aaron Sorkin, Call Me By Your Name by James Ivory, and Logan by Three Writers Too Many. Call Me By Your Name will win, and it should win this category. Call Me By Your Name is the only real standout here, which I felt took an interesting approach to the story it was telling. Mudbound is a throw-in. Logan has a decent script despite the fact that I felt like they could have easily trimmed 20 minutes off of that film. It also had some cheesy and overly profane dialogue, now that I think about it, that was just really stupid. It's still one of the better X-Men films that I've seen. I'm just not sure if it's worthy of being nominated. I didn't get the chance to see Molly's Game, unfortunately, but I wouldn't be surprised if Aaron Sorkin won because it's Aaron Sorkin. The Disaster Artist is a flawed film, but it did have a pretty good script. I felt that it did enough to service the source material. So with that said, I'm very confident that Call Me By Your Name will win this one. Next up is Best Supporting Actress, which includes Mary J. Blige for Mudbound, Allison Janney for I, Tonya, Leslie Manville for Phantom Thread, Laurie Metcalf for Lady Bird, and Octavia Spencer for The Shape of Water. I think this acting category is the most interesting out of the rest because there's a really fierce competition between Allison Janney and Laurie Metcalf, who both turned in excellent performances. They both have gotten a lot of awards for these roles, so it really could go either way. But I'm gonna go ahead and say that Allison Janney will win and should win for her performance as Lavanna Harding. She was so good in I, Tonya, loved how cruel, vicious, and mean her character was. Never have seen her do anything like that. She really does pull off a complete transformation. Would not be mad if Laurie Metcalf won, though. I also wouldn't be mad if Leslie Manville won, who was amazing in Phantom Thread. Amazing, and I will talk about how amazing she is when I review that film. Also loved Octavia Spencer, Eliza! And Mary J. Blige is a complete throw-in who didn't perform anywhere near on the same level as the other actresses I just mentioned. It seems as though the Oscars had to pick one Netflix film to nominate, so they just chose Mudbound for a bunch of random categories, including this one. Brie of Night from The Florida Project, who's not even a professional actor, could have easily replaced Mary J. Blige. I don't think she would have beaten Allison Janney or Laurie Metcalf, but I do feel that her performance would have been worth nominating. For Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Willem Dafoe for The Florida Project, Woody Harrelson for Three Billboards, Sam Rockwell for Three Billboards, Richard Jenkins for The Shape of Water, and Christopher Plummer for All the Money in the World. Sam Rockwell will win this category, and Benny Safdie should win, who wasn't even nominated. Fuck you, Academy. Don't get me wrong, I did like Sam Rockwell in 3 Billboards. I just didn't like the whole childish behavior thing that his character does, which is more of a writing issue than an acting issue, but I still think he should not win this time around. Woody Harrelson and Richard Jenkins were both very good, but I think there are many other actors who did much better than they did. This category is pretty frustrating because there's 3 major snubs that I think the Academy left out, which includes Armie Hammer for Call Me By Your Name, who was just so good. Michael Stahlberg was also in that film and was very good. What I think is really important to note about Michael Stahlberg is that he's in 3 of the 9 films nominated for Best Picture this year, and he was excellent in every single one. He could have probably been nominated for at least 2 of those. The most irritating snub in this category, though, is Benny Safdie for his performance in Good Time. Guys, if you watch the first 10 minutes of this film, you will understand why Benny Safdie deserves both the nomination and the award. He performed way better than anyone else in this category, and it's just really frustrating that the Academy didn't pick Good Time for any of the acting categories when this film had some of the best performances in 2017 by far. Out of all the people nominated here, I'd like to see Willem Dafoe win for his role in The Florida Project. He was very good. He's delivered many excellent performances throughout his career. And I did not see All the Money in the World, but I'm sure Christopher Plummer turned in a great performance because he's Christopher Plummer. I feel like this nomination could definitely be politically motivated since he replaced Kevin Spacey. Moving on, the next category is Best Actress, which includes Sally Hawkins for The Shape of Water, Frances McDormand for 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, Margot Robbie for I, Tonya, Saoirse Ronan for Lady Bird, and Meryl Streep for The Post. Frances McDormand should win, and she will win. She was so phenomenal in this film, guys. There's no competition. Love Sally Hawkins in The Shape of Water. Fell in love with her character instantaneously. There's a big part of me that wants her to win because I like The Shape of Water so much better as a film than 3 Billboards, but I just can't deny Frances McDormand. Her performance is just undeniable. Meryl Streep was good in The Post, but her nomination still feels like a throw-in. Margot Robbie was also very good, but probably not good enough to get an Oscar nomination, in my opinion. Saoirse Ronan was excellent as Lady Bird. Wouldn't mind if she won, but Frances McDormand's gonna win because she's really superior to everyone else in this category. There's 2 notable snubs in this category, one being Vicky Krieps for Phantom Thread. I felt that she was much better than both Meryl Streep and Margot Robbie. I also felt that Brooklyn Prince's performance in The Florida Project was significantly better than those 2. Watch The Florida Project, guys. She's only 7 years old and she does a phenomenal job in this film. I would even go as far to say that if she was nominated, she would be the only real competition for Frances McDormand, but she's not, because the Academy sucks. Next up, we have Best Actor, which includes Timothée Chalamet for Call Me By Your Name, Daniel Day-Lewis for Phantom Thread, Daniel Kaluuya for Get Out, Gary Oldman for Darkest Hour, and Denzel Washington for Roman J. Israel Esquire. Gary Oldman will win, and Gary Oldman should win. I am not a fan of the film that he's being nominated for. It's boring as fuck, but I'm fine with him winning because he's a really great actor with a really impressive body of work that he really does deserve recognition for. This will be his first Oscar if he gets it. His closest competition here is definitely Daniel Day-Lewis and Timothée Chalamet, both of which I wouldn't mind winning because they were excellent. Denzel Washington's nomination is the biggest throw-in of this year's Oscars by far. No one saw the fucking movie that he's in, and the Academy probably didn't either, honestly. Like Daniel Kaluuya a lot in Get Out, but I'm not sure if his performance was really Oscar-worthy. One huge snub here is Robert Pattinson's performance for Good Time. James McAvoy also delivered a great performance in Split, which I felt deserved a nomination. The most glaring snub in this category is James Franco's performance in The Disaster Artist, which he got a Golden Globe for. He was very clearly snubbed because of all the recent sexual harassment allegations made against him by several women. Say what you want about the guy, I think he's pretty weird and creepy, and I honestly would not be surprised if he was guilty, but if we're purely judging him based off of his performance in The Disaster Artist, I think he did better than anyone else in this category. Coming down home stretch, we got my favorite category for Best Director. This category includes Christopher Nolan for Dunkirk, Jordan Peele for Get Out, Greta Gerwig for Lady Bird, Paul Thomas Anderson for Phantom Thread, and Guillermo del Toro for The Shape of Water. Guillermo del Toro will win Best Director, and I think Christopher Nolan should win Best Director. I could see Jordan Peele winning for political purposes. Same thing goes for Greta Gerwig, who the Academy might just pick because of all the female empowerment that's been going on in Hollywood, which is a good thing, and I did like Get Out, and I did really like Lady Bird. But Greta Gerwig and Jordan Peele are not on the same level of directing as Paul Thomas Anderson, Guillermo del Toro, and Christopher Nolan. Let's be real, guys. Really love The Shape of Water, really liked Phantom Thread, but I'm really pulling for Dunkirk because that film really felt like an achievement to me. But even though I'm heavily biased towards Christopher Nolan, I would not be mad if Paul Thomas Anderson won or Guillermo del Toro. Paul Thomas Anderson is probably my second favorite. Guillermo del Toro, I really do think is going to win this. He's been taking all the awards for Best Directing from all the other different film ceremonies. The writing is really on the wall at this point. I really think he's going to take it. It is a little disappointing because I think Christopher Nolan has been snubbed so many times, but he earns it. The Shape of Water is mainly good because of how well Guillermo del Toro maximizes his directing ability, so this award would not be wasted if they gave it to him. And finally, for Best Picture, we have Call Me By Your Name, Darkest Hour, Dunkirk, Get Out, Lady Bird, Phantom Thread, The Post, The Shape of Water, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri will win, unfortunately, and Dunkirk should win, god damn it. I still do not understand the hype with 3 Billboards. I just don't get it. Darkest Hour and The Post are the most blatant throw-ins here. The Florida Project, Blade Runner 2049, Good Time, I, Tanya, The Killing of a Sacred Deer are all very much better than those films. I think those are even better than Get Out and 3 Billboards. I really want Dunkirk to win, would be disappointed if it did not win, but I would not be terribly upset if Call Me By Your Name won, Phantom Thread, Lady Bird, or The Shape of Water. Those are all very good films. I still think Dunkirk deserves it the most because I thought it delivered the purest cinematic experience out of the rest. It's one of the best war films ever, and it's really the only film in 2017 that gave me a reason to go out and see it in theaters repeatedly. I really don't want 3 Billboards to win, but the critics and fans have been gushing all over it. The Shape of Water could also win Best Picture very easily, which has the most nominations. Lady Bird could also win it as well if they're trying to really capitalize on the female empowerment thing. So there you go, those are all my picks for this year's Academy Awards. Let me know what you think should win Best Picture or whatever category it is you want to talk about in the comments section below. Be sure to check out the reviews I've done on all the Best Picture nominees so far. The only 2 that I have not done yet is Call Me By Your Name and Phantom Thread, which I do plan on reviewing sometime in the future. And I feel like I have to give you a formal review of Good Time since I've been hyping it up so much throughout the course of this video, so expect that sometime soon. But thanks for watching, guys. Hit the like button if you like what you see, or share this video, or both, whichever you prefer. And if you dig the channel, then subscribe to the channel, please. Thanks again, guys. This is your boy Josh. Have a great night, have a great day, have a great week. You know what it is. Signing off until